money. So we continue with our long run aggregate supply. Stop writing, please. Stop writing already. Stop writing.
Okay, let's go.
So, in the last class, we said our long run aggregate supply curve explains the economic production potential of a given economy. So there are other concepts about the long run aggregate supply curve, which discuss the output gap. So we're going to start with the PPF, the production possibility frontier. So I wrote, the LRAS curve is a level of output associated with production possibility frontier of an economy. This implies that at any point on the PPF, at any point here, that means the economy is producing to its fullest capacity, in as much as all resources are fully utilized. You know, the PPF shows the maximum of goods or services that an economy can produce if the economy is fully utilizing its resources. That's what the PPF is talking about. So the PPF linked to the long run aggregate supply curve states that if at any point in A to B, the economy is producing at its highest level. That is what the LRAS curve is talking about. So if the economy is producing below this point, beyond the PPF, it means there's output gap. Do you get what I'm saying here? Production behind here means there's output gap. And what is an output gap? An output gap is the difference between the actual production or the actual output and the potential output. So we have where we can get to, that's our output, the highest we could get to, but we are not getting there. So the difference between where we are supposed to be and where we are is what we call the output gap. Do we get it? So that's about that. Then the second one. So we have the trend rate of growth in the economy. I wrote, the LRAS curve is the level of output shown by the trend of growth in an economy. This implies that the economy is going along the trend of growth. Therefore, output can either be below or above. At this point, there will be an existence of output gap. So when there's an output gap, look at here. Production below here in the short run means that there's an output gap. In the long run, producing below it is also an output gap. So what should happen here? The economy should produce at the trend of growth. So the GDP should be above this. So if there's any situation that doesn't make the GDP to be above here, the economic factor or the economic agents must ensure that they find solution to ensure that they produce above the gap. Do we get it or not? There's a trend. This is a trend, right? This is a trend. Normally, the economy should produce at this point. But it's producing at this point. If it's producing at this point in the short run, it means there's an output gap. If it's producing in the long run, at this point, it means there's an output gap. So whenever there's an output gap, the economic forces must ensure that there's stability in the GDP. So they must ensure that they produce at the potential highest of their growth. You know, we said the long run aggregate supply curve talked about the production potential of an economy. So what is your production potential when you are able to use all your resources? But if you are producing at this point, it means your resources are not fully utilized. If you are producing at this point, it means your resources are not fully utilized. So the economic forces must ensure that the GDP of that economy reach its potential, because that is what long run aggregate supply is about. The long run aggregate supply is talking about your production potential. And when we talk about production potential, it means the highest you could produce. So producing here, is it highest here?
No.
Producing here, does it look like highest? No, it has to be above here. So to get to this place, the economic forces must ensure they come up with different solutions to ensure that they reach the highest trend of growth. Is the trend of growth clear? The first one is about the PPF, which talks about your production possibility frontier. You must ensure you produce at that point. Any line here is fine, but behind it means that you are not reaching your potentials. So that is an output gap. Clear, right?
Yes.
For the trend, which is the second one, which I just explained now, there's output gap here, there's output gap here. And when there's output gap, it means that there's a difference between your potential and what you are doing. So you have to reach the highest. That is why we have the long run aggregate supply. Is the second point clear? Yes. Is it clear, please? And the third point, which shows the economy. We said the LRAS shows the level of full capacity output of the economy. This implies that there are no underused resources in the economy. Production is at its long run maximum. So here, this is the potential. So that means this economy must produce here. But if the economy is here, that means there's an output gap. The economy is producing an actual output here, which is not to its potential. So whatever it must take, the economy must get back here. Because not getting here means resources are not fully utilized. Unused resources is not good for the economy. It will reduce our output. So for us to increase our output, yes?
How can they get above the line?
Yeah, by coming up with different economic policies. Maybe government could come up with subsidy to help the growth. Maybe there's advancement in technology. Maybe there's a need for advancement in technology. Maybe there's need in improvement of education and skills, yes?
Government will have to intervene.
Yeah, government can intervene. So that's why we said economic forces. Government is part of economic forces too, because they make economic policy. Do you get it? The economy is not reaching its highest. Why? There are different circumstances that might make it not to reach its highest. But there are economic policy to make an economy reach its potentials. Advancement in technology, education and training, this improves the skills of the workforces. So whatever it must take, we have to know that this is where we are supposed to be. Not being here means there's an output gap. So the point about the concept, the economic concept of the long-run aggregate supply curve is to find out that if there's gap or no gap within the economy must reach its highest potential. Do you understand the long-run aggregate supply curve here?
Yes.
The long-run aggregate supply curve talks about the production potential of an economy. So if the economy is supposed to be here and it's here, there's an output gap. And what's an output gap? The measure of difference between the actual output and the potential output, where you are supposed to be and where you are presently. So that is what we have to take away in the long run. Because in the long run, it is assumed that all resources are fully utilized. That in the long run, we have reached our constraints in terms of capacity. In the long run, all workers, all people that are unemployed are employed. In the long run, our fixed equipment, our fixed capital are there. They are constant. In the long run, the only thing that can change is the price. Do we get it? Any question about long-run aggregate supply curve here? So in the next class, we'll have to talk about the shift in the long-run aggregate supply. Thank you.